Breaking news about the first floor of the tower, also known as Babylon, was being broadcasted. It was announced that the Black Dragon Guild had made the decision to attack the 40th floor of the tower. They had confidently stated that they would showcase the capabilities of a top-tier guild. However, once again, they had returned empty-handed. The reason behind the Black Dragon's setback was none other than the #1 ranked hunter known as Flame Emperor. In yet another display of his remarkable abilities, he had single-handedly vanquished the 40th floor's boss. The reporter greeted Flame Emperor and praised him, saying that once again, he had set a new record. Since the appearance of the tower until now, Flame Emperor had remained the only one to have defeated a boss single-handedly. The reporter asked if he had any words to share. However, Flame Emperor appeared annoyed and took the microphone from the reporter's hands. He expressed his frustration and questioned why his title Flame Emperor was used instead of his actual name, and he considered it to be a lousy nickname. He expressed his dissatisfaction and declared his determination to find the person responsible for creating this nickname and torture them. Kim Gongya looked at the interview on his laptop and felt envious of how Flame Emperor was able to say whatever he wanted. He shifted his attention to the HunterNet app on his mobile, where people were discussing Flame Emperor. The conversations revolved around Flame Emperor's bad behaviors during the interview, despite the world watching. And rumors about an affair between Flame Emperor and the Saintess were also being discussed. Meanwhile, Gongya repeatedly wrote the same text, expressing his desire to be like Flame Emperor. Eventually, people noticed Gongya's repetitive texts and questioned who he was. Gongya continued to write the same sentence, expressing his envy of the Flame Emperor's ability to captivate everyone's interest, and the rumors of his substantial wealth. Gongya felt jealous and believed that if this world was a novel, then someone like Flame Emperor would undoubtedly be the main character, while he would merely be extra. Just then, Gongya's attention was captured by the reporter asking Flame Emperor a question. He praised Flame Emperor for his achievements and asked for his key to success, knowing that many aspiring hunters looked up to him. Flame Emperor sighed in annoyance and reluctantly responded, saying that he would only provide a few words for them to figure it out. Gongya watched intently, hoping to discover the key to success. Finally, the Flame Emperor spoke, emphasizing that those destined for success would ultimately achieve it. However, a solemn caution followed, warning them against obstructing his path, as such interference would result in their own death. Flame Emperor turned around and started to leave, ignoring the reporter's attempts to ask him about his previous statement. The reporters expressed confusion and frustration but were ultimately unable to get any answers. The broadcast came to an end. Gongya closed his laptop, tears welling up in his eyes. He felt a deep sense of anger and resentment, wondering if it was acceptable for someone as great as Flame Emperor to simply ignore people. He expressed his desire to possess a skill like the Flame Emperor. He believed that having such a skill would free him from living in a studio and being looked down upon as the lowest F-class hunter without any skills. He wanted to become like the Flame Emperor and succeed by using his own skills. He wondered how wonderful it would be if he could acquire the Flame Emperor's skill. Suddenly, a golden glow filled Gongya's room, capturing his attention. Surprised, he looked up and recognized the phenomenon from countless videos he had watched. Gongya wondered if it could be a skill card, a valuable item that could grant him skills. At that very moment, a message materialized in front of Gongya, proclaiming an unprecedented envy that had yet to be witnessed in history. The tower, astounded by Gongya's unsightly envy, bestowed upon them a new skill. Gongya was taken aback by the unexpected turn of events and recalled stories of individuals receiving messages of encouragement and rewards from the tower. This message, however, seemed a bit different. Another message appeared, declaring that the tower was praising him for this achievement. Gongya disregarded the tone of the message and focused on the fact that he had obtained a skill card. With eager anticipation, Gongya closely examined the card, realizing that this was the long-awaited moment he had yearned for ever since stepping into the tower. The card gleamed with a resplendent golden hue, symbolizing an S-rank skill. As Gongya clutched the card tightly in his hands, a new message materialized before him, indicating that a skill card was currently being generated. Soon his skill card was generated, and Gongya's eyes widened as he read the description. The skill name was I Want to Become Like You, and it was an S+ rank skill. This skill would activate automatically upon his death, allowing him to copy one skill from the person who killed him and makes it his own. However, he could not copy a skill from someone who had already killed him before, and the skill copied would be chosen randomly. There was also a note indicating that using this skill would result in his death. Tears welled up in Gong Ya's eyes as he struggled to comprehend the nature of this skill. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of skill this was. The tower emerged in this world without warning, its presence visible on the horizon from any location on Earth. Those with nothing to lose were the first to enter the tower and explore its depths. Each floor of the tower was infested with monsters from other worlds. Some individuals were chosen by the tower and bestowed with unique skills. As rumors spread, more people flocked to the tower, eager to hunt down the monsters and seek their own fortunes. During an interview, a man expressed his awe of Flame Emperor, recounting a battle where he witnessed Flame Emperor's mastery of the Flame Spear. He compared his movements to that of Nataraja, the dancing form of Shiva, the god of destruction. The man emphasized that despite achieving the top rank, Flame Emperor's attitude remained the same. Gong Ya spoke to the shop owner and expressed his desire to watch something else. The shop owner questioned if he didn't like the Flame Emperor. Gong Ya clarified that his lack of enthusiasm was unrelated to the Flame Emperor. He lamented the stark contrast between those who live extraordinary lives and individuals like Flame Emperor, and those who like him faced constant misfortune akin to a game with terrible luck. The shop owner sighed, recognizing Gong Ya as another person burdened by such thoughts. Gong Ya revealed that he had obtained an S+ skill the previous day but refrained from reporting it to the Hunters Association because using the skill would result in his death. Overwhelmed with frustration, Gong Ya broke down in tears, expressing how awful he would feel if he had to claim that skill as his own. The shop owner, exasperated, suggested that Gong Ya go outside to vomit. Gong Ya stumbled through the streets, his steps unsteady. As he trudged along, the current hunter rankings displayed the Flame Emperor in the top spot, followed by the Black Dragon at second place, and the Viper at third. Gong Ya winced, his throbbing head exacerbating his discomfort. Suddenly, a distant cry broke through the fog of his hangover. Intrigued, he redirected his attention toward a narrow side street. In that alley, Gong Ya's bleary eyes made out the figures of the Flame Emperor, and the Saintess engaged in a tense confrontation. Saintess pleaded desperately, her voice trembling with fear and confusion. The Flame Emperor sarcastically commended her acting skills, suggesting that if anyone witnessed their interaction, they would believe her innocence. He revealed a small bottle, claiming that he had poisoned the drink she had just consumed, a substance known as basilisk stomach acid. He accused her of intending to feed it to him. Discarding the bottle, he expressed relief, stating that if it weren't for his skill, he would have found himself in serious trouble. Trembling, the Saintess tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, expressing her desire to team up with the Flame Emperor to clear the tower. The Flame Emperor smirked, remarking that he had initially believed the same but had been proven wrong. The Saintess pleaded with him to engage in a conversation, hoping to clarify the situation. Gong Ya's heart raced as he tried to make sense of the unfolding scene. He had always believed that the Flame Emperor and the Saintess were in a relationship, but their current exchange painted a different picture. With a smirk on his face, the Flame Emperor tightened his grip around the girl's throat, asserting his dominance. He allowed her to speak but made it clear that he dictated the rules of their conversation. Gong Ya's thoughts whirled in his mind as he observed the perilous interaction. It became evident to him that this was not a mere conversation between two individuals. It was a chilling clash between someone who wanted to kill and someone who wanted to survive. Flame Emperor, his tone cold and calculating, took control of the situation, forcing the Saintess into submission. He informed her that he possessed a lie detection skill and demanded the truth. The Flame Emperor asked her if the witch from Black Dragon had sent her to kill him. However, the Saintess remained silent, avoiding eye contact. Unsatisfied with her response, the Flame Emperor's hand glowed ominously with a red hue. He made his intentions clear and said farewell to Saintess. A piercing scream filled the air, echoing the final moments of the Saintess's life. Gong Ya, witnessing the gruesome scene, was struck with horror. The person he idolized, the supposed hero, had revealed a dark and merciless side. Thoughts raced through Gong Ya's mind as he ran, tears streaming down his face. He cursed the Flame Emperor as a murderer, a psychopath. He knew he had to escape, to get as far away as possible. But as fate would have it, Gong Ya's desperate escape was abruptly halted when he accidentally stepped on a glass bottle, causing it to shatter loudly. To his dismay, the Flame Emperor appeared around the corner, his eyes locking onto Gong Ya. The Flame Emperor's chilling words cut through the air, acknowledging Gong Ya's presence as the last remaining rat in the vicinity. Gong Ya stared into the Flame Emperor's eyes, a mix of fear and anger bubbling inside him. He recognized those eyes as the gaze of a murderer. He realized that the Saintess wasn't the first victim. How many lives had the Flame Emperor extinguished? Tens, hundreds, perhaps even more. Suddenly, Gong Ya lost his balance and fell to the ground, his gaze shifting to his foot. Only then did he comprehend the horrifying truth. His own severed foot lay before him. The Flame Emperor closed in, wielding a weapon ablaze with fiery power. Gong Ya, desperate to save his own life, pleaded with the Flame Emperor and begged for mercy. He stammered out his words, expressing his innocence and claiming to have seen nothing. The Flame Emperor, somewhat intrigued by Gong Ya's reaction, questioned him further, wanting to know what he supposedly didn't see. Gong Ya insisted that he didn't see anything and promised not to tell anyone. The Flame Emperor took a seat near Gong Ya and confronted him about his actions. He pointed out that Gong Ya had referred to him as the Flame Emperor while claiming not to have seen whatever he supposedly hadn't seen. The Flame Emperor expressed his disbelief, stating that he would almost believe Gong Ya's words if he were a complete moron. Gong Ya, stuttering, pleaded not to tell anyone and begged for mercy. With an evil smile, the Flame Emperor issued a threat, implying that Gong Ya would suffer the same fate as the Saintess if he didn't cooperate. He demanded to know who had sent Gong Ya and questioned whether he was affiliated with the Black Dragon as well. Gong Ya looked at the Flame Emperor and couldn't help but see him as a demon and wondered how the world could be captivated by such an individual. Gong Ya mustered his courage and brought up the Flame Emperor's proclamation of having a lie-detecting skill. He proposed that if the Flame Emperor used that skill, he would see that Gong Ya was nobody significant. However, the Flame Emperor questioned him about what lie detection skill he was talking about. Gong Ya was taken aback and asked if the Flame Emperor had killed the Saintess without any evidence, solely based on suspicion. The Flame Emperor vehemently denied the accusation, claiming that the Saintess was planning to kill him and poison him the next day. When Gong Ya expressed his astonishment at the Flame Emperor's knowledge, the Flame Emperor simply stated that he had his ways. As Gong Ya thanked the Flame Emperor for believing him, the Flame Emperor placed his hand on Gong Ya's head, the hand glowing with a red light. With a chilling smile, the Flame Emperor declared that since Gong Ya had seen everything, he must die. Before bidding him farewell, Flame Emperor revealed his true name to be Yusuha. Gong Ya had a flashback of his headmaster's words, reminding him that since his name was Kim Gong Ya, he has to live up to his name. Gong Ya smiled and affirmed his determination to live up to his name. On death's door, he pondered the undesirability of meeting his end in such a manner. Suddenly, a notification materialized, announcing his death. Gong Ya questioned why he had to die in such a way and lamented the way he had lived his life. Suddenly, a message appeared, stating that the skill requirements had been met due to his death. Another message appeared, informing him that he had successfully copied Hunter Yusuha's skill entirely, and that a skill card was being created. Gong Ya, consumed by a yearning for a better destiny, unexpectedly spotted a gleaming gold card accompanied by a message urging him to choose a skill card. Filled with desperate hope for a fresh opportunity, he extended his hand and grasped the golden card. As Gong Ya held onto it, the message signaled the completion of the selection process, indicating that the skill was being copied. Suddenly, Gong Ya jolted awake in his bed, bewildered by the experience. Shortly thereafter, the sound of news emanating from his laptop captured his attention. Gong Ya's shock grew as he heard the news, the very same news he had watched earlier. Overwhelmed by these unexpected developments, Gong Ya couldn't help but exclaim in disbelief, questioning what was truly happening. Gong Ya's face filled with shock as he questioned himself, wondering when he had returned home and what had happened. He quickly checked the news and the HunterNet chat on his mobile, realizing that all these events had occurred just yesterday. It was absolutely certain in his mind that he had died moments ago. In an instant, Gong Ya summoned 2 skill cards with a single phrase, "Skill card open." The first card revealed one of his seemingly useless rare skills called "I Want to Be You." His attention then shifted to the second skill card, and he wondered if he had acquired the Flame Emperor's skill when he died. The skill name was Returner's Clockwork Watch, and it was ranked X. Gong Ya's shock intensified as he realized that this skill allowed the user to go back in time to 24 hours before their death. Upon returning, he retained all his memories and abilities, but the penalties would increase as his hunter level rose. This skill had been copied from Hunter Yusuha. Gong Ya's mind raced with thoughts, contemplating if this newfound power was the legendary ability possessed by hunters. Everything started to make sense. The Flame Emperor's motive for killing the Saintess became clear, as she would have poisoned him the following day. But Gong Ya felt a surge of anger within him. Despite his innocence, he had become a target and fallen victim to the scheme of the Flame Emperor. Gong Ya's focus shifted to his laptop, where an interview with the Flame Emperor was playing. The reporter asked the Flame Emperor to share a key to success in one phrase. The Flame Emperor responded, stating that those who are destined to succeed will do so, but he warned against getting in his way, as it would result in death. Gong Ya, fueled by determination and a desire for revenge, declared that they would see who would meet their end this time. Suddenly, a loud shout interrupted his thoughts. There was a massive fire breaking out, and people were frantically trying to extinguish it with water buckets. Gong Ya stepped outside and thought that the place he lived was different from the outside world. It was a city formed by those who aspired to become hunters within the tower. The city went by many names: Babylon, First Floor City, and Lantern City. But regardless of the name, it held the same meaning. Once you entered this city, you could never leave. It was a place where its citizens were forced to live in these extreme and perilous situations, unable to escape the challenges of the tower. Gong Ya ran toward the fire location and checked the time on his mobile and realized that it was the same time as when he was drinking. He realized that the Flame Emperor had set the building on fire to cover up the evidence of his actions and to create chaos and confusion. The Black Witch, the leader of the Black Dragon Guild, commanded the water users to cooperate with their temporary takeover of the situation. They were determined to extinguish the fire and help the survivors. Alchemist Castellan, the leader of the Healer and Pharmacist Guild, secured the perimeter and expressed concern for the survivors still trapped inside. They urgently needed a rescue team to save them. Captain Holy Knight, the urban vigilante leader, reassured everyone that the area had been deserted for 5 years, which would make their task somewhat easier. Amidst the chaos, the Castellan noticed the Saintess's absence and grew concerned since she was not known for being late, especially during such crucial moments. The Holy Knight pondered the possibility that she might be on a date with the Flame Emperor, given their frequent sightings together. However, Castellan expressed her distrust of the Flame Emperor, stating that she had a bad feeling about him. At that moment, the Flame Emperor appeared and questioned who was playing with fire without his permission. The Holy Knight welcomed the Flame Emperor and seized the opportunity to ask for his assistance in combating the fire that had engulfed the old slum area. The Flame Emperor responded with a selfish question, questioning what he would gain from helping. Gong Ya tightly gripped the knife in his hand, realizing the audacity of the psychopathic Flame Emperor, demanding a reward to put out the fire that he had started. The Holy Knight tried to convince the Flame Emperor by mentioning the praise he would receive for performing a good deed. But the Flame Emperor made it clear that he did not care about others' opinions. He walked away, stating that he did not engage in community service. Gong Ya's determination to confront and eliminate the Flame Emperor burned within him. He acknowledged that the world saw the Flame Emperor as a legendary figure, despite his despicable personality. Gong Ya believed that no one was unaware of the Flame Emperor's true nature, but they chose to overlook it, considering him a hero with eccentric traits. Only Gong Ya knew the dark reality behind the murderer's facade. He felt the responsibility to kill him for the sake of humanity and the honor of the hunters. As Gong Ya advanced towards the Flame Emperor, a concerned individual attempted to stop him, warning him of the danger ahead. Undeterred, Gong Ya pressed forward, firmly convinced that the monster deserved to be slain, regardless of the personal risks involved. However, instead of attacking the Flame Emperor, Gong Ya walked into the raging fire. He felt hot and burned all over his body and cried out in pain. The onlooker watched in shock as he endured the scorching heat. Gong Ya knew that sacrificing himself was the only way to bring down this monster. Suddenly, the message "You have died" appeared before him, followed by another message stating that he was returning 24 hours prior. As he regained consciousness, he found himself back in time, with the breaking news of the Black Dragon Guild's decision to attack the 40th floor playing on his laptop. Gong Ya took solace in the fact that his skill had worked properly, returning him to a previous point in time. A message appeared, indicating his current hunter rank as F, and there were no penalties for using this skill. He acknowledged that for now, killing the Flame Emperor was impossible. Even if he managed to get lucky, the Flame Emperor possessed a similar skill that allowed him to turn back time by 24 hours. Therefore, as a low-ranking hunter like himself, there was only one way for Gong Ya to hunt down that man. Gong Ya, fueled by his determination, recalled an interview with the Flame Emperor about his awakening. The interviewer questioned the exact time of his awakening, to which the Flame Emperor responded that he had awakened during the summer when he was 21 years old, approximately 11 years ago. He further mentioned that his awakening had occurred on his birthday, which fell on June 7th. Gong Ya calculated that the Flame Emperor had awakened 4,050 days ago from the current day. Realizing the daunting task ahead, Gong Ya understood that he needed to die 4,050 times to confront the Flame Emperor before his awakening. Holding the knife firmly in his hand, Gong Ya made the decision to end his own life. As he died, a message appeared before him, indicating his death and the subsequent return to 24 hours prior. As Gong Ya woke up once more, he looked at the knife, knowing that he now had only 4,049 days left to fulfill his mission. He repeated the process of taking his own life, dying repeatedly, and traveling back in time each time. Due to his low hunter rank, there were no penalties for utilizing his skill. With each death, the remaining days dwindled, 2,020 days, then 543 days. Gong Ya persisted, driven by his purpose and determination. Finally, with a smile on his face, he realized that this time was the last day. As he prepared to face his fate, he knew that now he would finally have the opportunity to confront the Flame Emperor. Gong Ya woke up in his bedroom, and as he rose from the bed, he glanced at the empty wall that once displayed numerous news articles about the Flame Emperor. It was a clear sign that his plan had succeeded. He had returned to a time before the legend of the Flame Emperor had been written. Letting out a sigh, Gong Ya acknowledged that he had died 30 times more than originally planned. Accounting for the time it took to kill himself and the intervals of rest in between, he had endured arduous trials to ensure that the demon's legacy would not live on. Filled with determination, Gong Ya left his room, knowing that the time had come to find his prey. It was 11 years ago, on May 6th, at 11 in the morning. Gong Ya observed the Flame Emperor lying in his bed, with his alarm ringing. The words escaped Gong Ya's lips exactly as the Flame Emperor had spoken them. "My head hurts. I shouldn't have drunk so much." Gong Ya had meticulously planned to replay this day about 10 times for the perfect execution. At 9 a.m., the Flame Emperor would wake up and leave the F-rank hunter's apartment. He would go to work, expressing his dissatisfaction with his miserable life. At 3 p.m., he would hunt slime on the second floor of the tower. Gong Ya noticed the Flame Emperor's frustration with hunting slime every day, and his desire to live a lavish life like the Sword King. As a 21-year-old, the Flame Emperor was a typical F-rank hunter, eagerly waiting for his life to take a turn for the better. Gong Ya understood this, but he knew that the Flame Emperor would not have the future he wished for. To camouflage himself, Gong Ya killed a red slime and used its sticky liquid to cover his body, preparing himself for the next phase of his plan. At 5:31 p.m., the Flame Emperor went to the 6th floor. Gong Ya knew that he would venture into higher difficulty areas, thinking that he could no longer sustain himself by hunting slimes. For the next 36 minutes, Gong Ya knew that there would be no one else but the Flame Emperor in this area. With determination in his eyes, Gong Ya walked towards the Flame Emperor, covered in red slime, and pleaded for help, claiming to have been attacked by wolves and was in need of a potion. Annoyed, the Flame Emperor looked at Gong Ya and dismissed him, stating that if he had already engaged with the monsters in the area, the day's hunt was over. Gong Ya persisted, begging for a potion, but the Flame Emperor responded with frustration, questioning why he should provide an expensive potion for free to a stranger he had never seen before. Confused, Gong Ya asked for forgiveness, not understanding the situation. The Flame Emperor retorted, expressing his own frustrations, stating that he was already struggling to meet his daily quota and couldn't afford to give away expensive potions. Gong Ya tried to reason with the Flame Emperor, explaining that the potion was valued at 20 gold at the Chemist Guild and that he was willing to pay. However, the Flame Emperor interrupted him, stating that Gong Ya seemed to undervalue his own life if he could only afford to pay 20 gold. The Flame Emperor questioned the worth of Gong Ya's life. As Gong Ya desperately tried to secure the potion, he increased his offer to 40 gold. Seizing the opportunity, the Flame Emperor smiled and demanded that Gong Ya give him everything he had. Grabbing Gong Ya by the collar, the Flame Emperor took his wallet. With this, Gong Ya's suspicions were confirmed, as he had anticipated that the Flame Emperor was the kind of person who would take advantage of others. Examining the contents of the wallet, the Flame Emperor counted the money and remarked that Gong Ya was quite poor, questioning why he didn't carry more money with him. Gong Ya insisted that it was all he had. With a smirk, the Flame Emperor declared that he would make good use of the money, further unsettling Gong Ya. When Gong Ya requested the potion, the Flame Emperor reached into his inventory and pulled out a weapon, expressing concern that Gong Ya might seek revenge if he were allowed to go free. He stated that he wanted to live without regret, and since Gong Ya had seen his face, he believed Gong Ya should just die. Reacting swiftly, Gong Ya dodged the attack and retaliated with a well-aimed kick to the Flame Emperor's groin. Determined to live without regrets, Gong Ya drew a knife and launched a counterattack against the Flame Emperor, and the Flame Emperor fell to the ground after being struck. Gong Ya declared that he couldn't allow a life-threatening incident to trigger the Flame Emperor's awakening. With that, Gong Ya resolved to ensure that the Flame Emperor would be gone for good and proceeded to finish him off. In a burst of anger, Gong Ya shouted at Yu Suha, expressing his outrage at the pain and suffering he had caused so many people. Turning away from the scene, Gong Ya noticed a pack of red wolves nearby and offered them the opportunity to devour the Flame Emperor's corpse. As the wolves began their grisly feast, Gong Ya continued on his path, clearing away some grass to retrieve his hidden bag. Changing into fresh clothes, he prepared himself to make his way to the first floor. As he arrived and was teleported to the first floor, doubts lingered in his mind. Was it truly over? He spotted a knight on patrol, feeling a sense of fear and apprehension. Walking towards the exit, Gong Ya and the knight came to the same position, causing him to tense up. However, to his surprise, the knight simply walked past him without any indication of recognition. He then realized that nobody knew what had truly happened. The truth of Yu Suha's actions and his own act of revenge remained concealed, leaving Gong Ya with a sense of relief and closure. As he sat in the bar, he felt a sense of happiness and relief knowing that the disgusting legend of the Flame Emperor, Yu Suha, was no longer in the world. He called out to the boss, requesting another beer to celebrate his victory. The waiter noticed Gong Ya's enthusiasm and asked if his hunt had gone well that day. Gong Ya confidently replied, stating that it was his best hunt yet. He then commanded, "Open Hunter Ability Window," and his stat window appeared, displaying his current abilities. His stat window showed his name as Kim Gong Ya, and his rank as F. He had 2 skills out of 4 slots available. The first skill was I Want to Become Like You with an S+ rating, listed as passive. The second skill was Returner's Clockwork Watch with an X rating, also listed as passive. Gong Ya admired his precious skills but realized that he lacked offensive abilities. He pondered if this was the greed of being human, and reminded himself that with his current skill set, he could still achieve great things. Gong Ya contemplated various possibilities for his future. He considered using his abilities to win the lottery from the Merchant Guild Give and Take or selling valuable information about the secrets of the higher floors. He felt that his life had turned around, and he was now set for life. Excitedly, he wondered where he should go from here, eager to explore the new opportunities that awaited him. Just then an old man entered the bar and the entire bar fell into surprise as they turned to look at him. The old man calmly ordered a drink, requesting warm milk with a little vodka and sugar, mentioning that honey would be preferable to sugar. One of the customers hesitated, explaining that he wasn't a bartender. However, the old man assured him that he would pay extra, alleviating any concerns. A conversation arose among the patrons, with one person noting that the old man seemed to be the real deal. Another questioned why he was there. Meanwhile, a news broadcast on the TV caught Gong Ya's attention. The news anchor mentioned the need for unity among hunters, especially in challenging times, and inquired about the whereabouts and activities of the Sword Saint. To Gong Ya's surprise, the image shown on the TV as the Sword Saint was none other than the old man sitting in the same bar as him. This revelation intrigued Gong Ya, sparking his curiosity about the identity and purpose of the Sword Saint. Sword Saint, whose real name was Marcus Callenberry, used to be the unrivaled top-ranked hunter until Flame Emperor Yu Suha rose to prominence. Gong Ya, observing Sword Saint's reputation and wondered if he possessed a solid offensive skill like an S-rank ability, unlike Gong Ya's own peculiar skill called I Want to Become Like You. A thought struck Gong Ya. What if he could copy the skill of any hunter who kills him, even if that hunter happens to be the current #1 in this era? Realizing that he no longer dies, Gong Ya became confident that he could accomplish this feat. In search of information about Sword Saint, Gong Ya discovered that he hailed from a wealthy European family. However, nobody knew what skills he possessed, and he had a peculiar habit of talking to himself. However, he couldn't find any useful information about Sword Saint. Suddenly, Sword Saint spoke to himself in a loud voice, commanding someone to shut his mouth and not be so loud. Startled by this encounter, Gong Ya realized that Sword Saint truly did talk to himself and wondered if it was a common trait among top-ranked hunters to have something amiss with them. Gong Ya's attention was drawn to an article titled, "Warning, Something You Should Never Say in Front of the Sword King." The author claimed to have witnessed a situation where some high-ranking hunters began provoking the Sword Saint by trash-talking him. However, things took a deadly turn when they mentioned the Sword Saint's grandchildren, leading to their immediate demise at the hands of the Sword Saint. Doubt arose among readers, with some questioning if the author worked for a large guild and was merely spreading rumors. Undeterred by the skepticism, the author responded by stating that he didn't care whether others believed them or not. His intention was simply to share the information, cautioning readers that if they wished to avoid a similar fate, they should never mention the Sword Saint's grandchildren in his presence. Having read the article, he took note of the information and considered that it was worth testing. Meanwhile, the Sword Saint could be heard talking to himself, demanding quiet and expressing his intention to handle something while complaining that his presence had spoiled the taste of his vodka. Placing some gold on the table, the Sword Saint thanked the bar for the drink and left. As he departed, the waiter bid him a good day, and one of the girls at the bar expressed relief that he was finally gone. Her companion wondered if the Sword Saint had dementia, questioning why he talked to himself. Taking cues from the Sword Saint's departure, Gong Ya also stood up, expressing gratitude to the waiter and handing over money. The waiter thanked him in return and encouraged him to come again. Gong Ya left the bar, determined to find the Sword Saint, the current rank 1 hunter. He scanned the surroundings, trying to locate him, thinking that since he left the bar right after the Sword Saint, he couldn't have gone too far. Soon enough, Gong Ya spotted him and began following him, noting that the Sword Saint's distinct attire made it easy to identify him in Babylon. He wondered about the kind of skill the Sword Saint possessed, speculating that it might be even more impressive than the Flame Emperor's rare X-rank skill. Gong Ya harbored hopes of acquiring that skill for himself as long as his lucky streak continued. However, their pursuit took an unexpected turn when the Sword Saint abruptly stopped and called out, instructing him to come out. Gong Ya was taken aback, realizing that the Sword Saint had instantly detected his presence. The Sword Saint remarked that it was a suitable spot, adding that nobody would know what transpired there. Gong Ya emerged and politely addressed the Sword Saint, stating that he had a request. Amused by Gong Ya's approach, the Sword Saint questioned his intentions and wondered why he had approached him in such a manner. Gong Ya was puzzled, realizing that the Sword Saint seemed ready to attack, even though Gong Ya had done nothing more than follow him. Confusion gripped Gong Ya's thoughts as he pondered the situation. At that moment, the Sword Saint commented on Gong Ya's acting skills, praising him as a first-rate assassin. Gong Ya trembled in fear and apologized, expressing his confusion. He inwardly questioned why the Sword Saint would think that and realized that he didn't even need to provoke the Sword Saint by mentioning his grandchildren to be killed. Gong Ya stammered out an apology, denying that he was following the Sword Saint intentionally. The Sword Saint expressed his disdain, finding Gong Ya's continued acting repulsive. He accused Gong Ya of trying to deceive him but claimed that Gong Ya's efforts were futile. Gong Ya, mustering his courage, approached the Sword Saint and pleaded for an explanation. He couldn't fathom how the Sword Saint could perceive him as a first-rate assassin when he believed he appeared ordinary and unremarkable. Sword Saint drew his sword and silenced Gong Ya, stating that he possessed numerous skills, including one that revealed the number of humans Gong Ya had murdered. Gong Ya acknowledged that he had a reason for his actions. He had killed the Flame Emperor to prevent him from becoming a future monster. However, Gong Ya realized that to the people in the present, he had no excuse for his deeds. He imagined that Sword Saint could see the number 1 above his head, indicating the single murder he had committed. Gong Ya pleaded with the Sword King to listen to him, emphasizing that he had a valid reason for that particular count and was willing to swear on his life. Sword Saint removed his hat, finding it repugnant that someone like Gong Ya, who had ruthlessly killed so many, would try to place value on their own life. While acknowledging that he had not lived a clean life himself, Sword Saint claimed that he had not engaged in the same level of ruthless murder as Gong Ya. Startled, Gong Ya expressed his surprise, stating that he had only ever killed 1 person. However, Sword Saint aimed his sword at Gong Ya, accusing him of shamelessly lying. According to Sword Saint, the count of how many people Gong Ya had killed was clearly displayed as 4,091 above his head. Gong Ya realized that the count of 1 was for killing Yu Suha, while the staggering number of 4,090 indicated the times he had taken his own life. To Sword Saint, Gong Ya appeared as a legendary assassin responsible for 4,091 deaths. Sword Saint questioned if the Black Dragon's witch had sent Gong Ya. In a panic, Gong Ya started running away, leaving Sword Saint to ponder his lack of response. While fleeing, Gong Ya realized that the situation had escalated beyond the matter of copying skills. As long as the Sword Saint possessed that particular skill, he would always attempt to kill Gong Ya upon seeing him. Sword Saint swung his sword at Gong Ya, determined to use all his power to end Gong Ya's life, and referred to him as a demon. Gong Ya miraculously managed to evade Sword Saint's attack, leading Sword Saint to praise him as a first-rate assassin. However, Gong Ya's luck ran out when he tripped over a small rock and fell to the ground. Realizing that he couldn't dodge the next attack, Gong Ya braced himself for what was to come. Suddenly, Sword Saint exclaimed that they should capture and interrogate Gong Ya, referring to him as a devil. Gong Ya observed Sword Saint talking to himself and wondered if the conversation was too real to be attributed to a mental disorder. He contemplated the possibility that Sword Saint was using a skill, such as telepathy, to communicate. Gong Ya concluded that if Sword Saint was sharing his information with others, revealing that there was a murderer responsible for 4,091 deaths, he would become a wanted man by the Hunters Association and become the target of large guilds and top-ranked hunters. Ultimately, he feared being publicly executed in Babylon Plaza. Determined to prevent this fate, Gong Ya believed he had to die within 24 hours or he wouldn't be able to reverse the situation. With resolve, Gong Ya rose to his feet and addressed Sword Saint, asking about the well-being of his grandchildren and mentioning the potential dangers they might face as members of a wealthy European family. Gong Ya subtly hinted at the dangers present in the outside world. He expressed his belief that since his grandchildren carried his bloodline, they would grow up to become wonderful individuals. In response, Sword Saint swung his sword, and Gong Ya's gaze turned to the moon. He marveled at its beauty and questioned if the moon was always upside down like this. At that moment, Gong Ya couldn't even perceive the Sword Saint's attack. Overwhelmed with admiration, he yearned to be like Sword Saint and wondered what he could do to reach such heights. He felt a deep sense of jealousy and expressed his desire to possess that level of skill and power. As Gong Ya's life came to an end, a message appeared informing him of his death and the creation of a skill card due to meeting the skill requirements. Gong Ya was elated, believing that he would acquire the skills of both the rank 1 hunters from 2 different eras. However, when prompted to select a skill card, he was disappointed to find that there were no gold cards available, only bronze and silver ones. This revelation shocked him, as he had assumed that there would be a gold card like the one he obtained from the Flame Emperor. He struggled to believe the situation and questioned the legend. Could Marcus Callenberry have reached the top without any S-rank ability, relying solely on his own strength? He doubted that such a feat was possible. Despite this, he forced himself to believe that one of the silver cards might contain a super overpowered skill. Ignoring the 3 bronze cards, Gong Ya decided to choose from the 4 silver cards, hoping for an exceptional skill like the one possessed by the Sword Saint. He understood that his chances were only 1 out of 4. As he made his selection, Gong Ya desperately pleaded for an overpowered skill to manifest. He didn't want a mediocre skill like the kill count, he needed something extraordinary. With his choice made, a message appeared indicating that the skill would be copied and he would return to a time 24 hours prior. Gong Ya was perplexed as he woke up in his bed and immediately commanded, "Open Hunter Ability Window," hoping to find his newly acquired skill there. He eagerly searched for the supposed overpowered skill he had obtained. To his surprise, Gong Ya discovered a skill called Sword Constellation, which turned out to be an A+ rank passive skill. Although he acknowledged that an A+ rank skill was still commendable, he expressed his preference for rare martial arts or aura awakening active skills. He couldn't help but feel a tinge of greed for more powerful abilities. Lying back on his bed, Gong Ya mused that the skill he received was another passive skill. However, he consoled himself by recognizing its A+ rank status. Curiosity getting the better of him, Gong Ya uttered, "Skill card open," hoping to uncover more about the skill he had obtained. He realized that its name alone did not provide a clear understanding of its effects. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts, asking who was being so loud. Gong Ya turned to the side and saw a red-haired man sleeping with his back turned toward him. The man, referring to Gong Ya as Old Man, scolded him for making noise during nighttime training and requested that they maintain proper manners. Gong Ya's face twisted in confusion and disbelief as he struggled to comprehend the identity of the red-haired man before him. The red-haired man expressed his frustration, reminding him to maintain quietness while training at night. He emphasized that there was no need to disturb him, as he would naturally follow the old man's movements. Gong Ya, taken aback by this interaction, asked the red-haired man who he was. Surprisingly, the red-haired man responded by questioning whether Gong Ya could see and hear him. Gong Ya confirmed that he could indeed perceive the red-haired man's presence since they were engaged in conversation. Perplexed, the red-haired man stood up and remarked that it was strange for someone to see and hear him. He then inquired about their location, expressing his astonishment at its small size, comparing it to a dog house. Additionally, he asked about the whereabouts of Old Man Marcus. Gong Ya, curious, asked if he meant Marcus Callenberry, the Sword Saint. The red-haired man affirmed it, acknowledging that it may be absurd to call a beginner a Sword Saint, but explained that was what people referred to him as. Gong Ya wondered in disbelief if the Sword Saint was truly a beginner. As the red-haired man peered out of the window, He complained about the limited visibility from the small window. Gong Ya examined the information about the red-haired man and discovered that he was a sword master from another world. He had reached the 99th floor of his world's tower, but was defeated just before reaching the 100th floor. Due to his overwhelming resentment, he became a wandering spirit unable to physically interact with the current world. But he could mentally interact with the ability holder and provide advice based on his extensive knowledge and experience. However, only the ability user could perceive and communicate with him. Gong Ya pondered this and concluded that the red-haired man was a ghost. Curious, Gong Ya asked the red-haired man if he was the spirit connected to the Sword Saint. Confirming Gong Ya's suspicion, the spirit acknowledged his role as the sword spirit. Gong Ya expressed his apologies, revealing that he had inadvertently copied him from the Sword Saint. In disbelief, the sword spirit opened its mouth wide and demanded to be returned to the old man immediately. Overwhelmed with emotion, the spirit began to cry, imploring Gong Ya to cancel the ability and demanding a refund. Gong Ya felt helpless and covered his ears and explained that he couldn't do anything to reverse the situation. In frustration, the sword spirit sat upside down on the room's roof and berated Marcus Callenberry, the sword saint, calling him a failure of a pupil since his teacher had been kidnapped by his enemy. Gong Ya was startled by the sword spirit's crying and pleaded with the sword spirit to live quietly. The sword spirit retorted that since he was already dead, he could not live quietly. Gong Ya, exasperated, requested that the spirit at least die quietly then. In response, the sword spirit continued to cry and accused Gong Ya of being insolent, pointing a finger at him while expressing disbelief at his audacity to tell a ghost to die again. Gong Ya wondered why the sword spirit was so talkative and suddenly recalled the sword saint's habit of talking to himself. He then realized that it was because of the spirit's presence. Frustrated, Gong Ya lamented the fact that he now had to hide from the sword saint for the rest of his life, in addition to dealing with the burden of the skill he had inadvertently copied. The sword spirit inquired about Gong Ya's need to hide from the sword saint, claiming that there was no other hunter as kind as him, as long as you don't mention his grandchildren. However, Gong Ya interrupted, stating that he already knew about this, but he had a skill that let him see people's kill count. Sword Spirit stated that the skill was Detective's Insight, but the Sword Spirit dismissed the skill as useless, merely providing an idea of whether someone was a killer or not. Gong Ya pointed to his own head and revealed his kill count, stating that it was 4,091. The Sword Spirit looked at him in disdain and declared Gong Ya to be insane and a beginner among beginners. He criticized Gong Ya for not possessing any aura and questioned how he could have possibly killed 4,091 people. Gong Ya explained that out of the 4,091 kills, only one was an actual person who would become a future villain. The remaining 4,090 kills were instances of him killing himself to activate his ability. His ability allowed him to copy a skill from someone who killed him, and the person he targeted possessed a skill that allowed them to return to a day before their death. This made Gong Ya practically immortal, as he would reset back one day even if he died. His primary motive was revenge, but the target, who was the #1 ranked hunter in their world and had a rare skill, proved too powerful for him to defeat. Thus, Gong Ya decided to go back in time to a point before the person awakened their powers. The Sword Spirit, intrigued, questioned Gong Ya's decision to turn back time solely to seek revenge on that one person, leading him to kill himself repeatedly for 11 years worth of days. The spirit then moved closer to Gong Ya and asked for his name, to which Gong Ya responded that his name was Kim Gong Ya. Surprised, the Sword Spirit questioned why Gong Ya chose to copy the skill of the old man right after getting revenge on the Flame Emperor. Gong Ya explained that the old man was the #1 hunter in the current era, and he needed to acquire the strongest skills to become stronger himself. The Sword Spirit made an observation, noting that Gong Ya was answering his questions honestly because the skill card indicated that only he could perceive him. Since information couldn't leak to others, he had nothing to worry about. Gong Ya confirmed this, stating that it was indeed the case. The Sword Spirit gestured for him to stand up and closely examined his body. The spirit commented on Gong Ya's impressive resolve, noting that his physical condition appeared decent, and that he possessed commendable ambitions. The Sword Spirit pondered about Gong Ya's talent, considering its potential. Curious, the Sword Spirit asked Gong Ya to show him how he hunted monsters. They arrived at a hunting ground with numerous red slimes present. Gong Ya sought clarification on the number of slimes he should kill, to which the Sword Spirit confirmed that he should eliminate a few of them. Gong Ya began hunting the slimes one by one, utilizing his knife skillfully. While Gong Ya engaged in combat, the Sword Spirit observed him closely. After some time, the spirit expressed his conviction, stating that his intuition had been correct. Gong Ya wiped the slime liquid off his face and inquired about the spirit's mention of intuition. The sword spirit explained that in his previous life, he was known as the Sword Emperor. He hailed from a different world where a tower similar to the current one had emerged. He boasted of ascending the tower at an unparalleled speed compared to others. Gong Ya reflected on this information, realizing that while the Flame Emperor had become a legend by clearing the 40th floor, the Sword Spirit had managed to reach an impressive 99th floor. He couldn't help but admire the spirit's remarkable achievement. Sword Spirit believed that the true measure of a hunter's talent could be seen through their actions. That's why he had asked Gong Ya to demonstrate his hunting abilities. Gong Ya responded with a faint smile, admitting that Sword Spirit's efforts would be in vain as he had no talent for fighting whatsoever. Taken aback by Gong Ya's self-deprecating statement, the Sword Saint strongly refuted it. He asserted that Gong Ya did possess talent and a remarkable one at that. Gong Ya was taken aback by the Sword Spirit's statement and thought the spirit was trying to mock him. However, the spirit explained that Gong Ya's lack of fear in the face of death was his unique talent. While most people naturally try to protect themselves in fights, Gong Ya's repeated experiences of dying, approximately 4,000 times, had likely diminished his fear of death. Gong Ya expressed surprise, questioning whether something like the absence of fear could be considered a talent. The Sword Spirit confidently affirmed that talents are not merely innate abilities, but can be awakened as individuals live their lives. Among all talents, conquering the fear of death is one of the most difficult to acquire, making it a remarkable achievement. Gong Ya reflected on the revelation, realizing that no one had ever spoken to him in such a manner before, including himself. He initially sought revenge against the Flame Emperor due to being treated poorly, but that anger had driven him to die without hesitation 4,000 times. Now, he discovered that death had become his talent, something he had never expected. The Sword Spirit asked Gong Ya about his thoughts when he died at the hands of Old Man Marcus. Gong Ya recollected the moment and replied that he found it beautiful. The Sword Spirit burst into laughter, thoroughly amused by Gong Ya's response. After laughing for a while, the spirit expressed his delight, finding their situation highly entertaining. Realizing that Gong Ya's skill was not to steal but to copy, the Sword Spirit speculated that Old Man Marcus likely possessed a duplicate of himself. Curiosity sparked within the spirit as he contemplated who between Gong Ya and Marcus would become the superior hunter. With unwavering confidence, the Sword Spirit declared that he would assist Gong Ya. He vowed to ensure that Gong Ya wouldn't lose to Marcus, but rather surpass him in strength. Together, they would aim to conquer the tower and rise to greater heights. Thanks for watching the video. The next part will be added here once it's uploaded. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're always the first to know when I post something new.